that also is just back to the integrated psychotherapy. When you spend however many minutes it is really talking with your patient about those feelings, even if they're painful and difficult about suicide, and you're using an evidence-based intervention, that is documentable, billable add-on psychotherapy, because that really does surpass probably the basics of an E&M visit if you're using those intervention skills. In terms of the 90833 service, it does need to be a separate and identifiable service. And we are expected as good practitioners to integrate therapeutic skill and communication into that E&M visit.
Mm-hmm.
So, every visit that is 22 minutes long doesn't necessarily include psychotherapy, just because we were being very kind and inquisitive and things like that. So we want to make sure that we too are billing ethically.
Loved how you explained in your course. You did such a good job, and we aren't taught this, Debbie, about the psychoeducation and that's expected in an E&M visit versus psychotherapy. I think we could touch on that.
I think to speak to any new grads or students, we're talking about billing codes that you use for appointments. So like for a E&M visit is evaluation and management. Is that what that stands for? It's like a basic medication management visit. You're checking in about meds. And Debbie was just saying part of that is you are expected to do some, like, how did you phrase it?
Part of providing a good patient-centered E&M visit is the provision of patient-centered caring communication, therapeutic communication, some psychoeducation. My doctoral project in my DNP was the creation of a training program for nurse practitioners to help them feel more confident and skilled providing add-on psychotherapy. And I did a lot of research, like in the place where I was working on, do you provide this service? Do you feel competent, skilled, whatever? And then I created this training, which has 1 hour on the basics of documentation and billing, and then 3 hours divided into kind of a few different psychotherapy modalities that are very easily integratable into our visits: motivational interviewing, CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, supportive psychotherapy, and interpersonal therapy. And there are many other types of therapies. Many are very similar to each other, right? But I picked these because they just lend themselves to being shorter. And what I tell people, I think my course is great for an overall approach, and learning the basics of those. It's kind of a reminder, because many of those approaches are ones that we learned in school. But they're also, I picked those modalities because there is lots of training available on them. It is very easy to find a 1 or 2 day training in CBT, a 1 or 2 day training in motivational interviewing. Probably more commonly, a DBT training would be a 2 day training. There's internal family systems trainings, which are 1 day. I don't think I'd recommend EMDR because it is a trauma focused training. It's a trauma focused modality, and thus it is not particularly integratable into a 17-minute session, which is what most of us have. So it's very popular right now, but I don't think I'd use my resources towards that if I were a new NP. But motivational interviewing and CBT are really great. Supportive psychotherapy, or what's often called brief focused, problem focused psychotherapy, perfect. My course is approved by the North Carolina Nurses Association, which is an accreditor approver by ANCC, the American Nurse Credentialing Center. So I think in most state you could get your CEs for that. And I offered that as a place to start. And now, starting in March, I'm offering the second series of that coaching series that you guys are in, where we also meet once a month and talk more about each of those psychotherapy modalities. And like you guys have experienced, I tend to do that as, let's just role play it. Pick a victim today, and we're just going to ask questions, and you're going to watch me kind of use that modality, which for me is how I learn. I think we all want to be flies on the wall to watching someone go through that. And it's not like, oh, get in that class and share all your problems. It's not that at all. It's just kind of watch how this interaction works. And so you can buy that, but you can also just buy the video on my website, which is debbiegranick.com. You can buy the 1 hour if you feel pretty good at the therapies, but just don't understand that whole crazy world of billing and documentation. But I really recommend that 4 hour training because it was really created in research and in collaboration with the NPs where I was working to meet the needs of NPs who were working in outpatient practice and give them what they felt like they wanted in a short form.
Yeah, there's so much value in that course that I think for a new grad, like I think that's the perfect place to start is your 4 hour course. And
Well,
I've heard that from other people too, who are like, it's just kind of, yeah, it's like a 4 hour like intensive on kind of the main pillars of what you would want to learn about if you're looking to incorporate this brief psychotherapy into your clinical practice. So highly, highly recommend it. You know, you can tell that you put so much planning into that course, very articulate, very great information.
Thank you.
And you do the coaching sessions for people who've done the course. Are you thinking of like expanding the coaching sessions or doing something more like regularly or?
I would love to do that. I would love to partner with your people, your listeners, to create something where nurse practitioners could come maybe on a monthly, weekly basis and really feel that they walk away with some practical skills. I know in a podcast we're kind of chatting, but I think there's a lot of value in saying, show up for this hour and you will leave with something that you can use and apply today. I do one-on-one coaching, which I can do actually just with one-on-one, or I can do in a small group. And that is always my goal. I don't want to just sit and talk about like what CBT is, but let's use that time to really practice.
Wow.
Here's what you would do. Right.
So I'm super excited about just kind of where we can go as a community of psychiatric nurse practitioners and providing more of this education. This is what people are telling us over and over again is like, where do we find this information?
I am very impassioned about this, again, because it serves clients so well and it serves us, also. And
yeah.
so I
agree.
want us to feel confident and skilled and less intimidated kind of moving into this world that can really deliver care and healing to the people that come to us for that
reason. Yeah.
I'm excited. This is how I end a lot of my letters to people who write to me with questions or interaction. I say, your patients are lucky to have you. Your patients are lucky to have you because you are here because you're interested in delivering great patient care. And that's the place to start. When you lead from that, I really want to care for my patients. Everything else will unfold.
I love that.
I love it. Chef's kiss.